HorrorDeconstruction.
What's up, everybody? It's the HorrorDeconstruction. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, but mostly on YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon. Hit the thumbs up. Let people know about the show with your host, KOMP, for this solo deconstruction. Today's film is Fear Street Part 1, 1994. A circle of teenage friends accidentally encounter the ancient evil responsible for a series of brutal murders that have plagued their town for over 300 years. Welcome to Shadyside. Directed by Lee Yaniak. Written by R.L. Stine, based upon the books of the Fear Street. Story by Kyle Killen and Phil Graziadel, Phil Graziadel and Lee Yaniak. So it also stars Kiana Mariera, Olivia Scott Welch, Benjamin Flores Jr., Julia Rewald, Maya Hawke, Charlene Amoya, David W. Thompson, and a whole bunch of other people. So this movie, also Fred Hetchinger, I don't know why he's so low on the list on IMDb. So this movie is the one that just recently came out on Netflix on Friday, July 2nd. This is part one of a three-part trilogy, obviously. That's what a trilogy is. Based on the novels by acclaimed children's horror book author R.L. Stine. If you know R.L. Stine, he also has a series called Goosebumps. I don't know if it's still going on. I tried to look at the list of the Goosebumps novels that he's written, and I can't believe it's one guy that writes this. But I guess you could. I guess if I've drawn lots of things, I can imagine a guy who knows how to writes many things. And just alone in the Fear Street books, it's like almost hundreds of Fear Street books. So imagine that, and then hundreds of Goosebumps. You don't understand why the guy's rich. And he's also a fantastic meme. Whenever you see a photo of R.L. Stine, he looks like this guy who's just like tired of everything. And oh boy, whenever you see his face pop up somewhere on Facebook, just read the comments because they're always funny. They just put fake quotes next to him like "I farted and shitted." Now and when you see his face, you'd be like, yeah, that looks like something he would say. But the guy's rich, so he can buy all of us. Anyway, so this film, I'm not going to do any spoilers for this film, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised and super impressed by this movie. So just to get into the bare parts of it, there's Dina, who's the main character, played by Kiana Mariera, and she's there with her two friends, Kate, played by Julia Rewald, and Simon, played by Fred Hetchinger, and they're just sort of, 1990s template characters. Obviously, Dina's the lead, and she's a surefire and go-getter kind of character, but she's also doom and gloom, sort of the person you're like, if you don't want to have a good day, you just hang out with her because she's always pissed off. But she's pissed off because her ex has obviously pissed her off in a reasonably way. And I was actually surprised by where they went with the ex stuff because I had not seen anything really about storyline-wise with Fear Street. I never read any Fear Street books as a kid. I never read Goosebumps. I was aware of the Goosebumps TV show. I saw parts of Goosebumps, the TV show, but I think I had aged out or just wasn't interested in this type of television show. Like, it obviously was sort of like Tales from the Crypt for kids kind of thing. And but I was just never into it. I understood why people liked it, and I appreciate that there was horror for kids, but I just wasn't into it. And the interesting thing with this film, what Lee Yaniak did, is that she really crafted a really interesting film, and I was surprised because she's the proper age to make this film. So when you actually see the movie and how it is, it feels like a 1990s surprisingly slasher kids film. It's actually R-rated, so there's curse words. I was surprised that they had the F word so many times in the movie. Like there's a sequence where they just knock it off like 7 or 8 times, and it doesn't feel like it's, hey, we can say the F word, so let's say it 7 or 8 times to sound, cool. It actually sounds realistic. The dialogue for the type of movie it is sounds realistic. I will say within the first 10 minutes first 15 minutes of the film, I don't know what their budget was on sound. Obviously, Netflix has more money than anybody besides Jeff Bezos. But the soundtrack, the music licensing, they have, it's just like hit after hit of songs, and it almost becomes like, well, okay, I get it, we're in the 90s, and the songs are good, but it's almost like that they're placating like the first 15 minutes because every 30-second change is a song from the 90s that if you grew up in the 90s or if you like 90s music, because it starts out with Nine Inch Nails' Closer, And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, they have like an actual Nine Inch Nails song in here, because you don't. But then again, I didn't realize like Old Town Road is a Nine Inch Nails song used for that, sampled for that. So Trent Reznor, not only is he an Oscar winner, he knows how to make some money, and I was super impressed at just the look of the film, because it actually looks like a movie. It doesn't look like some cheap sort of usual Netflix TV show. And this is essentially what it is. And it seems like it's going to be, it's three parts of a continuing storyline. And it has somewhat of an ending in this first one, but it obviously opens it up for another film. And essentially, if it's like an hour and a half film, it's, let's say they're 3 episodes, so it's like 3, 6, 9 episode series, but they're all compiled together into a film, and it doesn't feel like it's wasting any time with its material. It actually feels like a movie, except for the endings. It feels like a movie. But anyway, going back to the beginning, where it's like every 15 minutes was like a song, and it's just like, oh, this is kind of, I was sort of like, oh no, did like they think this is what a 90s film is, and then they decided to, just drop every song in it, because it seems like the music does not stop until the first 15 minutes, and it's just like, all right, I get it. But when the plot kicks in and everything serious starts happening, it works. They drop the constant music stuff. The music does come back in some points. They did have like Prodigy music. I don't know the dates of some of this music, because it takes place in 1994, so I don't know if some of the stuff was actually in 96 or 95 like that, but that doesn't really matter. The gore is actually pretty impressive for what it is. There's people that getting killed left and right in this movie. They also, obviously, in the opening, has a Scream reference. I thought it was just a ripoff, but it was actually a Scream reference, which I thought was pretty neat. The effects are really good. The actual killer costumes are pretty neat. There's more than one sort of killer in this film, and it was weird because at the beginning there's sort of a reveal of a killer, and I was like, oh, okay, so it must be a curse that takes over different people. But then when you see what's going on, it's like, oh, it's more in tune with the Goosebumps, because I didn't see the Goosebumps movie with Jack Black, but in that one the books come alive and all the monsters from them come out, so it's like a bunch of monsters chasing people, and that happens in here, and I had no idea that's what was happening in this. But it follows that convention, but it's R-rated, so it's like if it really happened. I was really impressed by the lead actors. Even though they all sort of fill this 90s template of main characters, it worked for this film because it felt like a film from the 1990s. And so Kiana Madera is really good as Dina. Julia Roald as Kate is really good. Fred Hetchinger is fantastic as Simon. So Dina's like, obviously, like I said, she's doom and gloom. She's all serious. Kate is more of like a badass, where she's very business minded, and she's into, she's a drug dealer at school. I was impressed that they actually left that. I haven't seen these type of films in a while, so I don't know how prudent people are, families with watching. I'm sure after this week the kids are gonna be like, yeah, it's a Goosebumps movie, yeah, and they're telling their mother and father, and they watch it together with their family, and they're like, oh shit, because there's a lot of stuff in this movie that they did not expect. Even I didn't expect, and I was like, yes, okay. It felt like an adult film. Like, adults can watch this movie, and it was good. It is aimed, obviously, for adults, but, kids are going to sneak in and see it anyway because it's under the R.L. Stine banner. R.L. Stine doesn't give a crap. He's getting more money just from this movie, and good for him, and it's going to sell his books. And Simon is this, the stoner friend, and I thought at the beginning, I was, this guy's kind of annoying, but he's entertaining, he's funny, he has some really good lines in the movie. And also there's Benjamin Flores Jr. as Josh. He looks appropriately very young. He's the brother of Dina's character, and he's the nerdy one that knows, because he pays attention, he's sort of a murder fan, or he knows all the history of murder, like how people listen to murder podcasts now, and he's like interested in doing AOL chats and shit. Now that I realize what I'm watching, and how it fits in the storyline later, I'm kind of figuring out who his chat partner is, and it's like that AOL IM, stuff. They actually have that with the sound effects and everything, and I was like, wow, this is really, this person did their homework with most of it. And it was interesting because, like, in the first 15 minutes, like I said, I thought it was just every 90s sort of cliche, just sort of, I guess, how Grease, a movie based in the 50s, played out in the 80s. And to us, like, I was like, the 50s is like ancient to us. So now we see what a sort of processed anybody who grew up in the 90s, we see what a processed version of the 90s looks on film, and this isn't bad. Like, they're essentially taking your childhood and making a slick movie about it, but the fact that it was more adult and acted really well and cut really well together, I was super impressed by it. And I thought it was really interesting and really cool what they did with it. So the interactions between all the characters are pretty fun. The actions are fun. It's I guess it could be scary. I wasn't scared by it. There's a lot of jump scare stuff in it. The usual jump scares, like a face popping up, a phone ringing, stuff like that. But I've gone beyond that now. So like that doesn't scare me unless I'm in a theater when you can actually hear it and scare the hell out of you. Interestingly enough, there's adult content. Well, obviously like the drug use, and there's like the girls get in their bras and underwears. The guy gets in his underwear. But the thing is with the girls, I had to look up their ages because I was like, oh no, this is gonna be a problem. Like when I saw after, because they look young. They look extremely young. They look like 16, 7. I think that's their ages in the movie. They're in high school, and Dina and Olivia Scott Welch, who's also a lead. I gotta say, Olivia Scott Welch is a really good character also. Very good actress. She becomes a secondary lead later on in the film. But they both get in underwears, and I was like, they looked so young, even though they're in there. Like Dina is like 28 or something like that, and I was like, get the hell out of here. She looks like a kid. I don't know how old Olivia Scott Welch is, but they look very young, and I was like, oh, I was disturbed, and I realized it's probably the curse of heterosexuality leaving me. That I'm just getting old. Because I was just like, oh, okay, thank God. Like I wasn't like going crazy for these young kids, but they are of age, so that you don't have to feel worried about watching these scenes with these people. I don't know the age of the other people, but they handle sexuality in it, and it isn't, I guess it doesn't feel exploitative. It's a female director that did this, so that's probably why it wasn't like close up crotch shots or anything like that. I enjoyed that, how the sexuality was played out in the film. It felt realistic for that age as a kid, because everybody's like curious about sex and what do you do if you think it's the last night of your life. And it wasn't like, it didn't feel exploitative, and it wasn't something that they focused on. It was like maybe 10 minutes in the film or 5 minutes in the film they focused on something like that. They had pretty ingenious 90s slasher, ideas about how to stop the killers that are chasing them. I was upset with some of the deaths in the film, because there are obviously a lot of deaths in the film, but there's some particular ones that pissed me off, but graphic deaths, and I was like, oh shit, man. It's one of those movies where you hope they come out with like some sort of time travel shit where they can save somebody, which would be great, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But it might happen. It is an R.L. Stine book, so I don't know what they do with R.L. Stine books. But I gotta say, all in all, for a movie on Netflix that actually looks like a film, it has a 3-act structure, it has a finale, and I think had this just been a solo film with the ending that it was, even I would have been like, okay, so it's a 90s film. If they just like cut off the last 30 seconds that leads it into another movie, I would still be like, this is pretty good. Like it felt like a dark Netflix children's movie, but it's not a children's movie. It's like an adult movie, but because it carries the idea of having this sort of R-rated Goosebumps movie version of it, it still is really entertaining. So it's a totally complete recommendation. I would give it a 7.5. Actually, 7.5, 7.5, close to 8 out of 10. Also, the monster designs are pretty fucking good. The skull mask guy is really cool looking. There's this like Jason Voorhees Part 2 looking character with the bag on his head with an axe. There's this 1950s girl who runs around. She's super hot. So it has that kind of thing, and there's this whole witch backstory, and that's gonna follow up in the other film. So because I was kind of like, they take place in 1994, 1984, I believe, or 1986, and then also 1666. So it's going back in time, I guess, telling the stories of why all this stuff is happening. So I'm like, but I think that they will intersperse with the current era, 1994, quote unquote. So we'll see what goes on with that. So maybe there might be some time travel involved. I have no clue, but it looks like a lot of the actors that are in this one are in the subsequent films, but they might be in just small snippets and stuff like that. Either way, it's entertaining. And I'm glad it's in 3 films. You get to watch it. I would actually watch this as a show. Like, this would be a dope-ass version of Stranger Things, honestly, because it's adult. And Stranger Things is good by itself already, but this would be a great companion series. But it seems like it's dealing with one story, and that's it. But it seems like a lot of people are talking good things about it. So anyways, a solid 7.5 to 8 out of 10. So it's a 7.5 out of 10. Showing disdain for people honking their horn at the back of your bus by exposing your buttocks to them, and then throwing some Gatorade at them, or a lot of water at them, and making them have a bad thing happen to them, and setting off everything. And with that, this has been the Horror Deconstruction.
The HorrorDeconstruction.